Okay, there we go. All right. Okay. So again, we will start with a brief pre-test, a few questions, and then we'll end up doing the same thing for the post-test, okay? So first thing we have to do is we have to set some goals for our students and identify some literacy targets. Now, I do know that as a math department, your focus is writing as a math department. That's something that you all chose right at the beginning, right? So I just decided that, and you all let me know, but I just said, well, since the focus is writing, that's what we might as well focus on for this. Because that's what your department is focusing on, is writing. That sounds good? Okay, all right. So, I want you to think about just where you are right now and where you're going as far as what you're teaching and your standards, because that is going to help us identify what the students are going to be able to do. And I'm in the first column. I'm in the first column. Mr. Baines, you can? Okay. So where it says students will. So that's going to help us identify what you want.
I'm sorry, do you want to project yours? So, and then we can see exactly where you are. And
Oh yeah, I can do that. That's perfect. So we're looking at what you want the students to be able to do. So let's just talk about writing, period. What do you want your students to be able to do around writing? Do I need
Ben swap probably.
Okay.
So she can sit here and so project it.
You brought my stuff, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shift this
Thank
table.
you.
Miss Yasin, I had to defend you today.
Huh?
I had to defend you today.
Me?
Yeah. One step. Hey, 5 problems. And then they graded the papers and then they were putting scores on the paper. Jerry came with a 75 out of 5. I said, how you come with 75? I said, it's 5 problems. I said, it's 20 points each. I don't know how to divide. Miss Gabatini didn't teach her how to divide. I said, that's not Miss Gabatini.
She was even in my room, huh? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gabatini.
I know that. I don't need all those phones.
Okay, so we're under, like I'm in yours, Mr. Now.
Yeah.
But where it says students will, this is what we will be filling out. The students will, the standards, and the literacy targets, and then we'll go ahead and decide what we want the baseline data to be too. So I want you to think about writing, and then I want you to think about, like, what do you want your students to be able to do with writing?
Like my kids be able to explain how to simplify the expressions.
Okay.
And then, you know what I mean, in words.
Okay.
Like,
All
I
right.
guess of justifying how you know your, or justifying how to.
Even if my students were able to tell me, I put all the whatever's together, I put all the terms together, or I had to go back, I had to use the distributed property. I'd like to see how thoroughly they could define what it is that they had to do.
Using academic language.
Exactly.
Okay. So then you would say, where it says literacy targets, exactly what you just said. That's what you will put down, because you said, just to make sure, you said you want your students to be able to justify or either explain using the appropriate academic language how to simplify expressions.
Right.
Okay. All right. So that's what you would put.
Okay.
And then what about you, Mr. Benz?
I'm saying write out the steps to each problem using academic language.
Okay. Okay. All right. So yep, you will put the same thing. That's great, y'all. Okay. So again, we want them to explain and we want them to justify their steps using the appropriate academic language, okay? All right, Ms. Dotson?
I was gonna, cause I'm getting ready to shift into equations, so I'm thinking along the same lines, but instead of simplifying, they actually have to solve, like,
Okay.
get to an answer, so I want them to be able to, two things. One, explain or, justify why, the reasoning of your answer.
Okay,
And then I
okay,
also want them to be able to, in writing, explain how to solve the problem.
okay.
Not necessarily, cause in that part, we, talking about the properties,
Mm-hmm,
your addition, properties of equality and inequality. So through writing, can you explain how to even solve it without actually solving it? So
Okay.
being able to explain it and being able to prove why your answer is right.
okay.
Both ways.
So you want them to do it orally too? You want them to say it, or you just want them to
In
write
writing.
it?
In writing,
In
they'll
writing,
be
okay.
exposed to both, but
Okay,
really focus on writing, explaining.
okay, okay.
So,
All right, that sounds good.
so I guess I'll say explain step-by-step process for solving
Mm-hmm.
equations or inequalities using academic language.
There you go. There you go. And now,
Would that been sort of like when we do the room today? And they put them in Word, and they actually write down those steps?
so,
We started on that. If I had a guy to write it down, folks would give them,
yes, yes, definitely, yes, 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 yes. Yeah. Okay, and now think about the standards that you're on, now, cause you all will be on, you're just, okay, so Ms. Ogu and Mr. Benz, you're on expressions. So you're in 7,
I just started on one step equations today.
that's right, you did. So you're
One-step equations and inequalities.
in.
Yeah.
He did.
Okay.
Mhm.
I was just making sure, cause we agreed.
I asked him, I said, what, cause first I thought it was a test, I was like, you testing? He was like, no, we doing expressions and inequalities simultaneously. I was like, that's good, that's good. This is exactly how you should be doing. Okay. All right, so when you're doing equations and inequalities, that is 7EE4, looks like.
Yeah, that's 4.
For me, oh wait, who? Me?
Him is 4.
Yeah, for us it will be
Oh,
EE 3 and 4 combined.
Okay, all right, so then just make sure you put, what standard? Mm-hmm. Normally your
Do
3.
we just put do you need the whole description of the standard or just the numbers?
Nope, you just put the numbers down. Yeah, you just put the numbers down, that's fine. Okay, let me go to another part of this. And then,
At the top, we not doing students with? Can we put something else for the student with?
well, at the top, hold on, let me get there, I didn't start repeating something else. So at the top here, where you have to explain and justify, that actually should be where your literacy targets are.
Yes, sir.
What is this?
Where you, I'll just leave it down.
Oh.
You have put it with students will.
Sure.
Mhm.
Oh, I see.
That's okay.
Thank you.
And then what you want your students to be able to do, it goes along with your actual standard that you're
Okay.
looking at.
Okay.
So, Ms. Ogu, like you have 7EE1,
Right.
and so whenever you look at 7EE1,
So, right now, they're, working on factoring. they're working on factoring and distributed property, actually,
Okay.
they've done that, so they will apply, what does that say? They will simplify expressions using, factoring and distributed property.
Yes, ma'am, that's exactly what you're right now, yes. And then Mr. Benz. You're doing equations and inequality, so what do you want your students to, be able to do with those equations and inequality based on that standard? And I think if you look, well, y'all don't have your curriculums, do you? Or is it on?
It's on the computer.
It's on the computer.
I have one.
Page 22, I always like to go to page 22 because it breaks everything down for each standard. It's
Oh,
the
yeah,
student learning outcomes. Yep, this right. Oh, I
That's
forgot
my-
my stuff is up there.
I pull, yeah, that's how I create that. I use Taught that to help create my objectives.
Objective.
And like my essential questions, I pull it from out the essential question part.
Yeah. So that is very helpful. This right here, page 22. So Mr. Benz, if you will look at that,
Students.
it's up here on the board too. If you, well, still, you might can't see it a whole lot. So this is what you want your students to be able to do,
See.
or what they should be able to do with the standard. There's a solve one or two-step equation for rational numbers fluently.
That's funny. I just saw the word fluently.
Mm-hmm. That's what we're gonna try to do. Right.
This is gonna be interesting. It's like I'm excited when I get to solve. I don't know, cause it's the algebra in it.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's like, can't believe these 7th graders don't got algebra on the brain. They really got operations on the brain.
Right.
But I try to make it fun for them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay. All right, we good? Mr. Benz, did you get yours? Yeah.
I'm giving you a hint. I'm just copying and pasting.
There you go.
I mean, I ain't no reason for me to try to say it another way.
Mm-mm. Right. Just use what's there. Okay. And normally, whenever we do the literacy targets, but you all did it, in the curriculum guide where the student self-assessment is down at the bottom
Mm-hmm.
of that. Let me get to it. There's a reasoning, there, oops.
If you
Right
want to
here.
look at a hard copy, I can give you one to look at.
There's a reasoning and modeling, that's page 52. There's a reasoning and modeling part. This is the how and the why of the expressions and equations. And then the modeling part brings in that real life, application part. And these are where our literacy targets, come in here. But you all already have that you want your students to explain and justify their solutions. But if you look there, if there's anything else that you want to add, you can, do that.
I'd like to have them also describe errors.
Okay.
So I would add that underneath the literacy one.
Tell me a little bit more about, you said
For a
describe
lot of
errors.
the problems, I think it's one or two problems that I've seen, where they'll say, you have to read it and find out what the error is.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know that's in the curriculum.
So, yes, they are in there. So you're talking about, right, you're talking about error analysis. And then with the error analysis, they do have to identify and they have to explain the error, and then they also have to correct it too. And then I think the last one is like share strategy there. So there's writing with that. So definitely can add that.
So we're out of it
too.
Did I leave my stuff ahead?
Excuse me.
You can add
I was knocking, but ain't nobody here.
We sure didn't.
So right where you said I can identify
I ain't get suspended this year,
or
no.
describe errors in equation solutions, yes. Or expressions, evaluations, and present correct solutions, yes ma'am.
What was, I'm sorry, just wait. He's
Brown.
always in the hall.
I just said, now I know where he belongs.
Where he belongs.
Identify and correct.
Identify errors in equation.
That's how looking along, but not as rude or, disrespectful. Like you don't really wanna do much, like you gotta like force them and beg them and get on your knees and pray, please do my work. But I don't have to go through that with him anymore, as I just see the other teachers are still having issues with him.
I saw him in this, he's down the hall now.
They got the floor.
Errors and equations and,
Like I had to
correct
be with him a little bit, just to get him to this.
solutions.
Yep.
Okay.
Here's a perfect one. I think all of us can use. It says, I can use correct vocabulary, symbols, and labels when writing and evaluating expressions, writing and solving equations, or writing and representing inequalities. That's, it's the third one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because that speaks to the vocabulary part that we were talking about.
Under which one?
This one, reasoning expression.
What's the third one?
52.
Page uses?
And that's still going under students will.
That's one of your literature targets.
Oh, yes. So.
But I should put expressions, shouldn't I put in?
Yeah. Well, this addressed all of them, so, because it talks about expressions, equations, and inequalities. Because it say or.
Right, so, but since you're just doing the expressions now, so yes, you just put the expressions. Okay. So we should have what the students are going to be able to do with your standard. And then you should have your literacy targets, and this is what you are going to have to be intentional about, where you have, you want the students to be able to explain and justify the steps. You want them to identify errors and whatever, you all put, this is the part that you're going to have to be intentional about. So that brings us to, we need to choose a task. And we need to make sure we choose a task where, based on what we have for your literacy targets, it will fit right in with it. The students will be able to explain and justify and use the appropriate academic language. So if you look at, that's right. So it starts with and it doesn't have to be, like, let's say, for instance, because it's like a few tasks, but you can also use the reasoning mathematically task too. So it doesn't have to be a required instructional task. It can also be a reasoning mathematically task. So like with you, Ms. Udime, on page 72, there's an error analysis, right there. So we could work up to that error analysis, because this is ultimately what you want your students to be able to do right here. That's pretty much what we're saying. So your task should match your literacy targets and make sure that you have that, or that students will be able to do these literacy targets that's there based on the task. choose a task.
This bird can write so neatly.
Huh?
He can write really.
Oh,
neat.
Bishop Jackson.
I thought it was printed for a second. I think I like that first one.
You like
But I
that?
was just looking through it first.
Mhm. And error analysis is always good. And I actually have, I'll share a folder with you, and I'll share that with all of you actually. I have a folder of error analysis problems.
Oh, great.
Different things, equations, inequalities, expressions, decimals, all of it.
That was good.
And you can even use it, whenever it's time to start reviewing for, art. You can use those error analysis. So now the good thing about the foul lesson, which Ms. Dotson loves, that we started on, that was our first coaching cycle, we started with the foul lesson. It has a pre-test and it also has a post-test. So that's what we use for the baseline data and the performance measurement. It's nothing that has to be created, it's already there. And then the lesson itself is the concept development lesson. So whatever the standards are, whatever the standards are for the FAL lesson, then the students will, this FAL lesson will help them develop that concept of equations or inequalities or whatever it's centered around.
This expense report on page 100.
Expense reports.
I think we used that last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, this is perfect, because I'm looking at this which equation, check all the
So expense report is good because that's dealing with expressions, and they have to do writing and simplifying with this. And they also have to justify, like, question number 3, they have to justify, so that's good. And Mr. Ben, yours is have you did expressions already? Mm-hmm. Okay. Ben said you're walking the road.
I can wait to get this section anyway.
You couldn't wait to get
This
it.
is favorites.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I like this too. So now, 7EE4, with you, Mr. Benz, you have football boosters, that's a fame task. And that is on page 80. Bicycle ride doesn't have a whole lot of writing, with it, so I wouldn't necessarily suggest to use bicycle ride, for a writing focus, with a writing focus. And then there's other, tasks in the curriculum. In the unpacking section.
So we include the ones that we're going to use.
So our coaching cycle is gonna be centered around whatever task you choose. So that goes like at the top, where it says unit and the required task, you see, that's what you would put there. I'm trying to get to EE4 for Mr. Beans. Okay. Now, Mr. Benz, there's a, performance task, on page 120, car dealership. And it has a lot of explain how you found your answer, explain. All of the questions actually have explain in it.
120?
She's in the curriculum.
120, I'm in the correct, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm in the curriculum now. So I just do.
Now, is it possible? Cause now that I look at this task, there's not, like where it tells them to explain, it's not connected to my actual goal.
Okay,
Like for instance, they're telling them to explain the expression they chose, but they still have to solve it. But I want that to happen at the solving stage. So if it says find X, can I add on to it and
Absolutely.
say explain how you solve? You know?
absolutely,
Okay.
you sure can. You sure can.
See, this one's an explain your answer fully. But see, this just says which diagram is not
Page one.
represented.
You
Is it
still
in here too?
No.
So
No,
you
it's,
gotta print this one out. It's not in the book?
no, it's not in the book for
Okay.
kids, it is not. Mm-mm.
Sorry, let me do that.
No, it's not. So yeah, you will have to print it out. It's page one, can you show me page 120?
I got it.
Oh, you got it, okay, okay. You see how every question has explain how you found your answer, explain this?
Yeah.
So there's, okay, maybe not then.
Maybe not.
Cause this, I'm looking at the last part of this task, it says the total of the, so they're asking, like, they say you have 3 consecutive numbers. And it says that it equals 170.
Mhm.
And it says, what are the 3 consecutive numbers, explain your answer. So I could just look at that part to get their writing, cause within this, you have to solve the equation you created to
Right.
get something.
Right,
I don't have to add, I'll just pick up from this part of the, task.
okay,
I'll just highlight this number 3 out of the problems.
okay.
Cause that's the one that really, I really like this one, I wish it was, but I'm not going, cause then that means they gotta write the extra question in the book and
I don't wanna do all
then
that.
it's already there.
Okay.
If it's not already there, I can't guarantee, then I'm gonna have to walk around and make sure they put
They
it
put it
there.
there, yes, that's true, that is very
So
true.
I can, remember I said explain, that's why you didn't get the.
Right, right. Okay, so-
3 works, number 3 works, I'm putting stars.
All right, so everybody got a task, Ms. Udime, you doing expense report. Mr. Benz, are you gonna do car dealership?
Yeah.
Okay. And then,
Yes, oh, yes.
Yeah.
I like the. Is it time to go? What's the difference between go and go?
right.
Like, then it says something, oh, she mad. I don't know what's up with the double words now. It's just funny.
So the task that you all chose, our coaching cycle is centered around that task. So it's kind of like, ultimately, this is what you want your students to be able to do.
Okay.
You want your students to be successful with expense report and, you know, the other tasks that you chose and put here. And then after that, then we will actually do a post-test, which is similar to what you're gonna give them for the pre-test. And then we will kind of see again, like, what the students,
So you give them
did.
the task itself as a pretest?
No, not how, we can take like a question from the task, because you want the pre-test to be something quick. You don't want it to be anything
Yeah, 'cause I was
long and
gonna
drawn
say,
out.
no.
No. It could be something quick, and you can even give it to them as a warm-up, or do now.
Yeah.
Everybody
I
calls it
did
different
quick
things.
brains, answer the central question.
Mm-hmm, so.
Cause it's focused on the writing aspect of it. So you have to, the pre should be something they wrote and you provided feedback, not graded.
Right. Right, that's right.
And then they'll do that same
Same
thing
thing.
at the end. So you should,
Okay.
and then you
Compare.
compare.
After
Yes.
they do after
Right.
Mm-hmm, yep, after they do that. So we want to make sure again that whatever our baseline, or it's called baseline, but pre-test is, your post-test is gonna be the same. So that way you can truly make a comparison, to see where the students are. And then in between, after we do the baseline data, then we're gonna start with doing some kind of strategies, whether it's, quick writes, answering essential questions like Ms. Dotson just said, exit tickets. We have to be intentional about getting our students to write. Okay, we have to be intentional, with, and then plus, not only is it gonna help them with this, but, you know, the park is right around the corner, and they're gonna have to write for that too, so we have to make sure we give them opportunities, to write.
So can we use, an assessment question as pre and post?
As long as they have to write, as long as it's something where. the
Okay, like
students
say
have
for
to write.
instance, cause I already paper cut this one. So this is one that,
Definitely type 2 questions,
okay,
yes,
so
definitely that.
this was one that I had already indicated. we
Okay.
used.
Okay.
So we can use this as a pre.
Mm-hmm,
this as
and
a
then the
post.
same, mm-hmm. Or you can use that as a pre, and then for a post, you just change the numbers around. Or you can do the exact same
For
one.
mine,
It won't make no matter.
well, you know, only a few would, you know, and then those that get it would get it anyway.
Mhm.
No offense.
So that's good with being intentional right there. So you said that, what page was that on?
This is on page 80. It's a type 2 assessment question, because them and I had already kind of identified that one.
I'm gonna try to keep like a little log or note sheet of what you all, choose.
Trying to see where I can put it. Is there somewhere in here I can
Oh, yeah, the
Mhm,
top
so-
required instructional tasks.
put it? No, the pre and post, or pre.
You wanna write it?
I was, you know, I was just, it would make it easier if I knew what it was.
Yes,
School
so
place.
go to, you still in the first, section, go down to the bottom where it says description of pre-task,
Okay.
see that?
Oh,
Yep, and
okay,
if you
here
would
we
just
go.
bold type 2.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
And then you can even write, if you would like, page 80 or whatever page that was,
All right,
so you know. That would be great. And then now, Mr. Benz, this is probably gonna take you out of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
You doing this. Like these type, when you do type 1 and type 2 questions? Okay, all right, so you can choose, like Ms. Udemy just did, she chose a type 2 question for the, I mean, Ms. Ogle, I'm
It don't
sorry.
matter. You can answer.
One
You
is-
tell the kids.
one is
just
no
go
one at all.
You tell them, you call, I answer the both.
All right. Ain't that except that, right? I got you. So you choose a, you choose a type 2 where they have to write.
One day.
It's hilarious, I'm telling you. Every time I walk in there, I'm laughing at something. And this, you did me, I was, why are you laughing at me? I said, cause you are funny, that's why I'm laughing, you are funny. Yes. So yeah, choose a, like a type 2, question, just one question. You don't want it to be anything long and drawn out. You just want it to be something simple. And then with this, just like, Ms. Dotson said, with this, your baseline, you're not grading it, you're just kind of looking to see where the students are. So we would need to come up with some kind of rubric, where we can sit down and when we analyze the data, you can say, okay, this is a number 1, or this is number 2, or this is, well, actually, emerging, developing. And you can, that's right up under the, baseline data, emerging, developing, meeting, and exceeding.
Oh, okay.
That's where we analyze the baseline data. We just put down how many ever students we have that were emerging, so on and so forth. And then right under that, it shows, it says the percent of students that are able to demonstrate proficiency in their learning target or literacy target. So just based on your baseline data, how many students, you know, or what's the percent of students that are able to demonstrate that literacy target. If it's 10%, that's fine, because by the end, we want it to be 70, 80, 90, 100, you know, percent. As long as we can show some growth, that's what we want.
Okay.
So it's harmless. This is not anything, it's what you're already doing, it's just you being intentional,
Yeah.
about it, that's all, you're just being intentional with it. this needs to go. So now, you chose your baseline data, when you plan on giving it to them? Gotta give it to them soon.
Probably, maybe Friday,
Friday.
Friday or Monday.
So when do you plan on having the task done? I know we're just kinda guessing.
Yeah. Well,
Cause
see,
you were in it, though.
actually, we were gonna give them a quiz on just, simplifying expressions. We had planned to give that this Friday.
Okay,
So the writing piece wasn't included.
okay.
So maybe we could just throw the writing piece in there.
Yes. Yes.
Just throw the writing piece in there on
Do
Friday.
you have expressions like
And
this?
then- No, I didn't see.
Do you write it like that?
You know, I'm saying, did you use any expressions like that?
Mm-mm. I didn't see that until eighth grade, I don't think, am I right? Or-
Wait, we talking about,
That looks like eighth grade.
like to evaluate that?
Simplify.
Oh,
It's just adding and subtracting.
Yeah, that's eighth grade.
Yeah, it's just adding and subtracting.
you taking
Go back to it.
I mean, nothing wrong
They
with
do
it.
it, they do it.
I
Well,
mean,
that's
there's nothing
good,
wrong
then,
with it.
then you come to eighth grade.
Cause I want to show you all how I showed them how to do this.
Mm.
This is what this one here. This part A, part B. And then I do this thing, that's these two. Which will be at 12. So, about 12. About 12 is okay. And this will be what? Will be 2 over what?
I can see your hand.
36
I'm sorry.
divided
Okay, I see what you got.
Maybe 3. And then I had them expand this. Cancels out.
That's eighth grade.
Cause they learned their, rules of exponents, cause then they looked at that, they would've known to just subtract.
Subtract the X ones,
That's good. You got the
Yeah.
problem that.
But this is just adding and subtracting though.
Yeah.
So
Now,
just
that's
do
what, cause I
that.
said when you did that, now my students would've saw that with evaluating an expression where they had to plug in and solve it to get an answer, but to simplify, no, they didn't.
Right, right. Okay, so you said you were going to give,
On Friday, we'll give a quiz on.
okay, what's Friday's date? And the reason why I'm taking these notes is just so we can remember the first, okay. So we need to be intentional.
And then we can throw that in, that pre-assessment and cost. That's part of it.
Mhm.
And then hopefully by, I don't want it really any later than Wednesday.
So mine is not.
What's